What it do, Dream Team? It's your boy D Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Winston Churchill, hero or villain? BBC News. I don't know too much about Winston Churchill. I know of a couple speeches that he gave that I was absolutely mesmerized by, and I thought they were truly, truly amazing. I don't know of really much else that he's done. I know he's an incredibly important figure in the history of the UK and the history of Britain, but hero or villain, I don't know enough to be able to decide that. Before we jump into this video though, make sure you guys subscribe, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up, and let's find out.
To many, Winston Churchill stands as an emblem of British pride, with his force of personality and rousing speeches.
Men will still say
speeches.
this was their finest hour.
In the Anglo-American world, Churchill is seen as a hero. He made the right call in the 1930s to warn against the dangers of the Nazis.
To galvanise the British nation, to inspire it to stand up against Hitler.
Yeah.
And as one convoy returns, another is going over to take its place.
But others say he was racist, a staunch British imperialist. Some hold him responsible for violence and a horrifying famine in India.
Around other parts of the world, he is often seen in a very negative light.
I feel like that's gonna be a case with most people from back where slavery was a thing, and I don't think it was a thing in the UK in Winston Churchill's time. I'm pretty sure it was gone, but racism was probably still a thing during that time. I'm assuming. I'm not saying it was for sure. I'm assuming. I know it was here in the US for sure, but and then of course, yeah, what happened in India. I know I've seen the story from both perspectives, and from India's perspective, they feel like the UK did more evil than good. They feel like the UK stole looted $45 trillion and didn't leave them with much. But I've seen also videos from the British perspective where it was like the British colonizing them actually helped them in the long term be able to prosper and turn into the country that they are today. So I've seen it from both perspectives, and so I can see why India would see him as evil and why other countries may see him as the bad guy, because right from their perspective he is the bad guy, he is evil. And from Britain's perspective, I mean, this is a man that inspired Britain to fight against Hitler and stop the Nazis. This is a man that's done incredible things there. And so I guess hero or villain just depends on what perspective you're looking at it from.
One criticism that's often aimed at Churchill is that he was racist.
Churchill was quite explicit that he did believe that white people were superior.
Oh, you racist. He might have, yeah. He might have done heroic things, but that statement alone, he racist. He just said he believed that white people were truly superior. That's racism, ain't it? Okay, continue, Churchill.
Was quite explicit that he did believe that white people were superior. He said that he disliked Chinese people. He described Indians as a beastly people with a beastly religion, by which he meant Hinduism. He often described Africans as being sort of childlike. He was certainly criticised during his own lifetime for having outdated, antiquated views on race.
Yeah.
So did he hold these views throughout his lifetime?
Churchill was not a politician who stuck rigidly forever to a certain worldview. Events did lead to him changing his mind. And it is quite evident that during the war, when everyone had to kind of get together to try and defeat the Nazis and the Japanese, he certainly did change his mind about white supremacy. And he is quoted on various occasions as saying that we can no longer see the white man as superior.
So So he's saying his views changed into where he firmly believed in the beginning that white people were superior, and I assume that's probably what he was taught to believe growing up, and so that's what he ended up believing. But over events such as World War II and know what I'm saying, uniting with different kinds of people to fight Hitler, to fight the Germans, through that he began to see people through a different lens, and I'm guessing after that his views on other people changed to where he didn't see the white man as superior. Okay. I'm a firm believer in people can change. People can change. Let's hear more. We still got 4 minutes. I'm not giving my opinion until I hear all of it.
As saying that we can no longer see the white man as superior.
As well as being a fierce opponent of Gandhian Indian independence, many Indians hold Churchill responsible for the Bengal famine of World War II, where 3 million people died. Wartime food shortages led to a mass starvation in British-administered Bengal. Prime Minister Churchill was accused of stockpiling food ready to feed liberated European prisoners, bypassing India.
We know that he made very negative comments about Indians and blamed them really for the famine, saying it was their fault for breeding like rabbits. But that's not to say that he deliberately planned or engineered the famine or wanted to perpetrate deliberate genocide against Indians.
He was very much constrained by the emergency of war and all the other demands on his time and thought, and also most particularly shipping, which was an absolutely huge shortage at the time.
I know war costs money. So in this situation, it sounds like what I'm hearing is basically Winston Churchill said, basically the circumstance on the table is either we're going to starve or they're going to starve. And he's blaming them, saying it's their fault for breeding like rabbits, and that's why they're having a famine, because they're too overpopulated. But he is stockpiling all this food. I'm assuming that India had, so he take from India and stockpile this food. And so, yeah, like I said in the beginning, I'm assuming his options on the table is they're going to starve or we're going to starve. Would be the only reason I would think that he would allow that many people to die of starvation by taking that food, if he took that food. And so I feel like it's kind of a lose-lose situation. Not saying I agree with it at all, but it's a tough position to be in. So, okay, let's continue this.
Huge shortage at the time.
In 1910, miners in the Welsh town of Tonopandi went on strike following a dispute with mine owners. After they clashed with police, Churchill, who was then Home Secretary, sent in the army. This was seen as an overreaction by many in Wales, with some claiming that the army fired shots, but this has never been verified.
Churchill was criticised at the time by the Daily Mail for being too soft. Later, of course, this episode was seen as him being very harsh towards the working classes. There were exaggerated stories of him sending troops to shoot down Welsh miners, which were not true.
Churchill gained a reputation as an anti-union politician, but some historians dispute this.
He was very much one of the two major architects of the foundations of the welfare state with Lloyd George. So we have to thank Churchill for the statutory tea break and all sorts of other elements.
He helped pioneer the system of labour exchanges, what we would now call job centres. He was somebody who was perceived by conservatives as being a sort of a class traitor, a rabble-rouser, in fact.
Blacks and tans. Oh,
and there was
Lord.
one place in particular where Churchill gained a reputation for enabling violence. The Irish War of Independence began in 1919 when Churchill was Secretary of State for War.
He advocated and supported the formation of a group of auxiliary forces called the Black and Tans, who were responsible for brutal reprisals against Irish rebels who were fighting Britain, burning down people's houses and so on and so forth. Churchill certainly knew what was going on. He, of course, regarded this as a war. He saw this as vital to the survival of the British Empire.
So was Churchill anti-Irish? It may not be that simple.
He subsequently changed his tune and played a key important role in negotiating the Anglo-Irish Treaty of 1921, which gave birth to the so-called Irish Free State, which later became the Irish Republic.
And before he died, Michael Collins said that nothing could have been achieved in setting up the Irish Free State and establishing the Irish Treaty of 1921 without Churchill, and certainly not the implementation of it.
So, Winston Churchill, hero or villain?
It's a silly question.
I wish people would stop asking simplistic questions as to whether or not Churchill is a hero or a villain.
What people want to do is attribute far too much power to one single person. History is far more complicated than that.
Okay.
He is the most biographed person in history because he's a little bit of both. We still always eventually come back to what he achieved in 1940, 1941, 1942, which was to stand up against Hitler, when pretty much no one else was doing that in Europe at the time.
He was a controversial figure during his own lifetime, both in Britain and around the world, and that has persisted until the present day.
I think when she said a little bit of both, I'd probably share the same opinion on that. It sounds like he was a little bit of both, but I also think what he said was absolutely right in the fact that history attributes too much power to one man, right? But in saying that, then you also can't give one man all the credit when something happens on his watch if you can't give him all the blame. So it's a tough situation. Again, like I said at the beginning, I think it depends on the lenses or the perspective that you're looking at Churchill in. Certain people around the world are going to see him as a villain, and other people are going to see him as a hero. I think Churchill did absolutely heroic things, and those shouldn't be counted. Those shouldn't be taken away from him. But I think she said earlier, he also did some villainous things. And so that's got to count against him as well. I know that I would hate to be in his position and have to make a lot of the decisions that he made. I feel like anybody in that position, you would have been hated by somebody. There was no way you would have been loved by everybody. And so I'll just say I would have hated to be in that position. That's the best I got. Is he a hero or villain? I couldn't have been in that position. That's the best I can give you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Also, if you enjoyed that reaction video, make sure you check out this one next. And subscribe to the channel. It's your boy Neal. Out.